to Edwards. Edwards fires. He's got a wide open man. Oh, it's caught. Robert Wilson. Touchdown, Michigan. 75 yards. Josh Gaddis pulls a rabbit out of his hat.
3.
All right, welcome in on this Monday. That was Gus Johnson at the Big Ten Championship game this past Saturday at Indianapolis, the one that Michigan won. You know that by now. And we're kicking things off with a great guest. I mean, it was a great game, and we got a great guest. It's Jarrett Irons, the former Wolverine, who's here on the Maize and Blue Review. Jarrett, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing good, Dennis. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I know that you this past weekend were in Indianapolis, so you got to witness that happen at Lucas Oil Field. What was that experience like for you?
Look, you know I had to be there. It's been a long time coming, and I've been wanting this game for a long time. So, that's why my voice sounds like this. I was yelling so much, man. It was an awesome experience, and just so happy for Michigan and happy for that team, for our team, and it was a great, great game.
Now, did you think one of those, like, they played such a great game against Ohio State, so there was a little bit of people were worried. I thought it was one of the things, at least to talk about, that Michigan might have spilled all of their emotion and good play against Ohio State, but that didn't look like it was the case. They still brought it against the Hawkeyes. Yeah,
I didn't worry about us not playing well in this game. I worried more about Iowa's a tough team. Like they know how to get up for these type of games, and they're a storybook program as well, and I knew that they were going to come and play hard, and I knew that their defense was going to they have a good defense. So, but these guys manhandled them like it was nothing. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, it's 42-3, and you get Michigan's up 14-3 at the half. So it wasn't like it was over at the half, but there was reasons to feel good. I mean, you have a 67-yard run, you got a double pass. But other than that, they didn't do a whole bunch. So they might have been like, wow, were you concerned at all? Sitting there talking with other Michigan folks at the break.
No, I wasn't concerned at all. I mean, it's so funny. This team is just different. If you talk to guys that I've talked to a lot of my former teammates in the beginning of the season. We did not think this team would be good. Anywhere close to what they are now. And it just goes to show what college football and being on a team is. It doesn't matter what other people say. It's what you do in the game. And I think they've been every week. If you watched them, I was talking to Josh Gaddis about it. Every week they've gotten better, and every week it's been a building block for them. So it like the success they're having now. It makes total sense because they've been building this all year.
They're fantastic almost from wire to wire against Ohio State. And then, they get into the second half against the Hawkeyes. And listening to Cade McNamara after the game, he wasn't great. I mean, Donovan Edwards had more passing yards than he did in the first half. But he said that he felt confident in what Josh Gaddis, the game plan and the adjustments that they made. And he was a different quarterback in the second half against the Hawkeyes. They seem to take to the coaching and whatever the focus, whatever it is, man, they really soaked it all in and we're able to put it out there and put it and execute it all.
You can tell, man. You and I were talking earlier. I spent some time with the team afterwards, after the game, and hanging out with some of the coaches and so forth, and the players. You can tell, man. There's a love between these guys. Like they love those coaches, man. They love the atmosphere. It's a family vibe, and you can tell they believe in one another. So whatever Josh calls, they believe in it. You know what I mean? Whatever McDonald calls, he believes. Whatever Harbaugh is talking about, they believe, man. And there's full trust on that team. And so and it shows in the way they play.
Well, what about belief? Did you believe when you saw this team this year? I go all the way back to the Washington game when they came out with that ground and pound, and they came out in the second half and they were running the ball, and everybody was like, well, groaning even a little bit, like, man, they got to at least pass. And
yeah,
they ran up like 345 yards. And everybody's like, well, that's great, but they're going to have to pass the ball. When did you see something in this team that you thought, oh, maybe they are going to play, fight tooth and nail with Ohio State? Maybe they'll be able to. It's something special, I guess.
For me, it's not so much the plays and the play calling and so forth and running the ball, because everybody was saying what they were saying. For me, what really changed it for me is just watching the season. So, as a former player, understanding and playing in these places, one, to go to Wisconsin and play and win, that's really difficult. It's tough to win in that stadium. So I saw when we had that win and then come back to back and go play Nebraska at night. Now I know Nebraska is not a great team, but it's a storybook program. Having an older brother that played Nebraska, I spent a lot of time there. That is a really tough place to play. Their fans are just diehard, and the win at night, that built confidence for this team. That built them to believe, and to see what they did in Penn State, and in that game, those road games really built a lot of character in a team. And then you look at the way they played. This is how I felt for Ohio State. The Maryland game was an easy letdown game, and the way they approached that game and attacked it, you could tell they were ready. They were ready for the following week, and it showed. And they haven't stopped, man. So it's gonna be interesting, man. These boys, they want it, man. They're not, they don't care about what everyone else is saying. They believe in themselves, and they're like, look, let's go get this.
You're listening and watching, if you're here on the video, Jarrett Irons, a former Wolverine, two-time captain. And, you mentioned going into that final game, you had success against Ohio State. In fact, some of the most memorable Michigan-Ohio State games ever, 95, Yakapatuka, 96, what was it? Spring slipped and Ty Streets. I mean, I was third, I think. And those teams, like those Ohio State teams were awesome. I mean, it's,
Oh, yeah, they were stacked. Yeah.
Yeah. So
when I see Orlando Pace and Sean Springs all the time, I run into them at different events. They still bring it up to me, and Eddie George, we all laugh about it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of fun probably when they bring it up to you, because you're like, I don't know, we ended up on top.
We always believe, man. I mean, that game is, you and I have talked for years. That game is not about talent. It's about your will to win and who wants it the most. And that's what was so hard about last year. Not last year, the year before, when Fields said that they didn't think we wanted it as bad. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I was on the phone with a lot of former players and guys that you guys would know. Man, we were pissed hearing that, man. It just left a bad taste in your mouth, because this rivalry, if you need any extra, enthusiasm or any extra, to get up for this game, then something's wrong with you. I mean, the Ohio State Michigan game is the biggest of any game you could ever play in college football. So to say that they didn't want it as badly, it just set a lot of former guys off. So just to see how we pounded these guys 2 weeks ago, it brings a lot of joy to my heart.
Well, you say that, and you would think, what kind of extra motivation would you need? But I can remember Terry Glenn was like, we're just going up there. We're going to treat Michigan like any other team. And then Woodson, I think he was a freshman that year, so it was 95. And Woodson's like, yeah, I guess Terry Glenn, ran his mouth a little bit too much, so he had heard that. And I know, I remember.
Trust me, it was in the locker room. I mean, his comments were on our lockers. Trust me, we knew. Yeah, we knew.
I knew Lloyd liked it. He had that desk outside of his office, and there are all these papers on there, but you would look and they'd see things that were highlighted, and they would say like, oh yeah, so-and-so's, saying that, they can run right over. They'll run right over you. Any kind of preseason. And you know what? After the game, the team was running off. You probably were, on your way to the hotel or whatever else, but down on the field, they were running in the locker room. Some of the reports where the players were yelling 2%, 2%. And after the game, they asked Corum and Vistardis, they were up there, and they were like, what's that about? And they said, well, they gave us 2% chance to win the Big Ten.
Dude, they believe you, dude. I heard that as well. And it's in this game that we played, man, there's a lot of motivation that comes back and forth. And in a big rivalry game, you don't really need any extra ammunition. But when you get it, trust me, you hone in on it. And you can tell these guys were honing in on that 2%. It meant something. That, I think also that, in the comment that Haskins, I saw that he was talking about, where they thought with last year in COVID that, we were scared to play them. And that, I think that really sat with those guys, man. It really got under their skin. It got under mine, I can tell you that. I mean, I was envious. I wish I could have played in that game.
Well, you know what? The guy that stood out to me was Josh Ross. Like they were asking him, he's like, no, we wanted to play. There's nothing. Nobody was scared.
Yeah. Josh was like, "Oh, no. We don't get it mistaken. No, we wanted to play that game. Now, personally, I'm glad we didn't because I don't know if we had it. But no, man, that's a huge rivalry game. You always want to play in that game if you can. Trust me.
Jared, how big of a deal? Michigan brought in a young NFL coordinator and Mike McDonald, and it was a 3-4. You were a linebacker there in the middle.
Yeah.
See those guys. I don't know. Aidan Hutchinson probably been pretty good with his hand down, but man, just him standing up and just racing right in there, going right at the quarterback. I don't know if it's a split second that helps him, and he's a great player, but it sure seemed like this defense suited him and 55 Ajabo, of course.
No, I think, and I spent some time with McDonald on Saturday night and just congratulated him on just taking over this program, this defense, and doing such a great job. What I love about it is, his scheme lends well to our talent. You know what I mean? And you could tell that guy's been in the NFL, because when you're in the NFL, you have all this talent that you have on your team. And it's putting people in the right places and playing them how you need to play them to get them to really get everything you can out of them. And he's done that. I mean, changing the defense. And listen, Don Brown, to run his scheme, you got to have some dogs to run his scheme. You can't play man nonstop all game. I mean, you just can't. You know what I mean? You got to change it up. You got to disguise. Like Don was like, look, no disrespect to Don, but he was like, look, I'm playing man. I'm playing it, and let's go. And we just didn't have the guys that could do that. And you got to change it up. And I like McDonald. I like what he's done. But I think also too is that he's evaluating his talent. And he's using his talent in the best way he can. And he's treating it like an NFL team. That's what I love about it.
Well, they might be playing against an NFL team their next game. You mentioned dogs. They're playing the dogs, the Bulldogs. There was some thought maybe that they would get Cincinnati, and I think everybody initially wanted that matchup. But now that it's Georgia here, a lot of time to prepare for that Georgia team that really got smacked by Alabama. And all year long, everybody was saying that this was it was Georgia and everybody else. But now it's Michigan and Georgia. I don't know what kind of chance. I don't know if you dove in and watching games.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. I'm a diehard Michigan fan, so I really don't watch a lot of other, and I don't watch NFL and all that. Michigan's the only team I really watch. But it's funny. I happened to the two games. I saw Georgia playing earlier this year a little bit. Watched a little bit of it, and I remember saying to myself, I'm like, dude, those guys look like grown men out there. I mean, they do look apart. But to see, obviously to hear how Alabama just dismantled those guys. I mean, I think that's what put Alabama at number one again, because I mean, if it was a close game, I think that, Alabama probably wouldn't have, they would have been number two probably, because we've looked the best out of anybody the last, towards the end of the season, so, but as far as going into this game, I don't think it matters. I mean, a lot of us, we're thinking hopefully it'll be Cincinnati, but I think this team is different. I think they don't care. They're a chip on their shoulder type team, and they want to prove it, and they want to prove it against the best. And I think for them, they're not satisfied. That's the best. I was seeing Aidan, talking to him and his parents, and obviously Hutch was my captain, and I've known Aidan's mom a long time. We all went to school together, and just to see the pride and what he's accomplishing and what he's leading this team to, and him embracing me as a former captain and looking at him. I mean, I don't care who they play. I think they feel the same way. They feel like they're going to win the game.
Well, you know what? I know you were a Woodlands, Texas guy. Then you were in Chicago for a long time. You still do some work there, but you're in Detroit. And if the Lions, they might pick Aidan Hutchinson. It's a long way to say you might be heading right down the street there, and you might become a Lions fan because your guy might be just a couple blocks away there at Ford Field.
Hey, I would welcome I'd welcome his energy here, man. I mean, that's the thing about it, man. That's what changes culture. I mean, you got to have the right fit, the right people. But he's got a motor, but it's funny. I mean, I've known his dad for a long time. His dad played against my brother that went to Nebraska. They were rival teams in Texas, and so Hutch has always been that good. And it's just funny to see his son play the way he plays. Hutch had all that same talent. He didn't. I mean, as far as his motor and so forth, he just wasn't as athletic as Aidan, and he wasn't as big as Aidan. But you can tell he reminds me of his dad in a lot of ways. It's just his nonstop motor every play. That was his dad.
I know they do a lot of different workout things now, even from when you played. Different things that they use. But when they showed that thing in the off season where he just had the universal bar and he's like crawling underneath and without any collars on it or whatever that was. Well, you need balance, strength, and everything else. But all of those things, like they showed that, I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that you have to be pretty athletic and
his core must be real strong. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, pushing guys back into the quarterback, having no chance. He played. There's been a lot of guys that have played great games against Ohio State. I mean, he may have played they might start talking like Tom Harmon, did all those things. Like that's
you know what it is too, Dennis. It's like what I like about this team is that they don't get flustered. You know what I mean? And it's like the defense. I mean, earlier in the season, I'd get pissed because the defense would give up a big play, but they act like it's nothing. They don't care. Like it's like you give up a big play, okay, let's go back, let's turn around. I mean, like you look at that interception that was thrown in the Ohio State game. They, threw an interception, ran down the field, kicked a field goal. They were like, okay, let's go. They didn't think anything of it. And, you got to have a short-term memory when you play this game. You can't dwell on mess ups that you have. And but I think more than anything, you just tell these guys believe and they trust one another. So when they get down or close game or like that Penn State game, when they went up, these guys just they didn't bat an eye. They were like, okay, let's go. There's time on the clock. We're gonna win this game.
I think you said storybook once or twice earlier, but it just you think about where this team was last year, just with the 2 wins and the pandemic and everything. And there are a lot of people that were looking at Jim Harbaugh and saying, I don't know, we know about the salary and that whole story, but to have them bounce back like they did, and they might change the playoffs after this year, and who knows? Now that there's name, image, and likeness, maybe that'll level the playing ground or playing field when it comes to recruiting and everything else, but to do it and then be able to do it under the old rules and now and then to finish it off like they did Saturday, I think that was good to validate everything even more. It just keeps going. Just how special is all that as a former player? I guess I'm asking you, when you talk to the former players about last year and Jim, were there people like a lot of the fans were like, maybe it's time to move on and everything, and to have this turnaround, it really is a great story for Jim Harbaugh and of course Michigan.
I mean, it is. I mean, I'd be lying to you to say that, I'm very connected in my era when I played and when I was, captain and so forth. I stay in touch with a lot of guys, and I'd be remiss to say that we all weren't, upset and mad, but I was on the player committee with some of the other guys that when Jim Hackett asked who do you guys want to be the next coach, we're the ones that asked, we wanted Harbaugh to be here. And so, from that standpoint, but yeah, even with that, I mean, yeah, we were mad how things were going, but you got to trust the process. And no, did any of us think that this year was going to turn out like it is now? No. But I tell you what, I'm loving every bit of it that we are here. But no, I mean, for former guys, man, it's just a lot of us that follow this team and just want them to win.
Well, I got some quick hitters here. Of course, I could talk to you for a couple hours straight, asking you every question. You're doing a great job. I already appreciate all of your time. So you went to the Big Ten title game in Indy. Where were you for the Ohio State game?
I was at the game. I watched it. I was in the suite watching it, and I had to make it for that, man. I mean, it's just, it's one of the games you just had to see, and the build up. I mean, it was just I had to be there and see it.
Yeah, well, what was that like for you? I mean, you're sitting there. Like, to me, that was one of the great performances from a Michigan team. I talked about Aidan individual performance, but just from start to finish, from every staff, players, it was just such a historic performance. It must have. What were you? How are you feeling? What did you feel?
I was going nuts, man. I was just beside myself. I mean, I was I was close to tears because of just, it's been so long. But then also too, I live in the Midwest. I work in Ohio a lot, and I have a lot of Ohio State, friends, and dealing with them. And I just, it was a lot. I wanted this game more than anything. I mean, I really did. And it's a game that means the most. I mean, it's, there's no other rival game that's bigger than Ohio State Michigan. There isn't. And to be one of the men that have had the opportunity to play in that game multiple times, it's such a great honor. What I was feeling that day, I will tell you this. I played in that stadium and one playing in it, but then going to a lot of games. I've never seen Michigan Stadium look like that. I mean, I've never seen it. I mean, after the game, I've never witnessed anyone rush the field like in a game. I've never seen that myself. I mean, it's probably might have happened when I was playing, but I was off the field, but not like that. It was beautiful, man. It was so beautiful. I mean, it was just, it just made my whole weekend. And that Monday afterwards, it was just like, this is how it's supposed to feel, And it's like now, like, dude, Dennis, I don't know if you know this, dude. We won the Big Ten, dude. I mean, look how big that is. I mean, we own it. We won the Big Ten. You know how huge that is.
Jarrett, is it going to help your job here? I know you're telling me you have to drive to Chicago. So you walk in, you see people, they know who you are. You got this big smile on your face. You might have before, but now, man, you're smiling even before they open the door. I don't know, man. It seems like it's got to help you out no matter what.
It does, boy. It helps me out. It helps my family because my wife knows I don't watch any other sports but this. So when they lose, it's bad for everybody in my house. So it's yeah, man, I love it, man. It's like, look, we just won the Big Ten. I mean, how huge that is. And being a part of that and seeing it and just feeling, I love this university and to see these young men go out there and play. And it's so funny. So when I played at Michigan, and one thing about the history of Michigan, when you go out there and play and you wear that winged helmet, you're not playing for just that team. You're playing for all the men have come and wore that helmet before you. It's a lot of pressure to wear that helmet and know that all the Michigan greats and the Michigan players that have come through there, and you're representing them now. You're representing us. Like, trust me, that's why when we lose, when we don't play well, we're pissed because you're not upholding to the standard of what we set. And to see this team not only uphold it, but continue to take it to that next level and represent us. It's just it really warms my heart, man. I'm just so proud of them and happy. I'm proud for Jim. I mean, Jim's been going through a lot, and this game is not about money. It's not about any of those things and stature. It's about like men coming together for a common goal and a common cause and believing in one another. You know what I mean? Like this bond that these guys have, they're part of a fraternity that will live on forever. That Michigan fraternity is just unbelievable. And it's so funny. I was at the Ohio State game. I'm standing with I'm in the box and I'm in between takes Wood. I'm with Woodson and then all of a sudden Ty Law, we're about to win. Ty Law FaceTimes me. He's got all his Michigan gear on, going nuts. I mean, it's just like you got two Hall of Famers. We're just standing there like, you know what? This is what it's about. It doesn't matter about how much money you make. It doesn't matter about what accolades you have. It's about winning that game and being a part of this program. So for me, I just love it, man.
Well, you should be, Beeman. Congratulations. Congratulations to all of Michigan Nation. Of course, a two-time captain. You had to answer all those questions all the years about how they're going to get it done. And, now you can, at least have a different narrative. It's different. And,
I'm telling you right now, I'm ripping everybody. I've been talking a lot of mess since Saturday.
Well, I know what you're going to be doing on New Year's Eve. You got between now and then, and just walk around and really just be on cloud nine. So
I've been on cloud nine. I'm taking my family to Houston for Christmas, and I'm not going to be able to make Miami. But if they would have gone to Dallas, I'd have definitely made it. But I'm gonna be watching and just happy and proud. But we make it back to Indy. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there. I can't miss that.
All right, I got a final question for you. You mentioned Christmas, and I see it. You don't watch the pros, but I do. They keep running this special, how they're going to have a John Madden. John Madden, is 85 years old, and they're having a Madden special on Christmas Day. And I'm guessing you're going to watch that because your dad, I don't know if your dad liked John Madden or if he didn't like John Madden, but he played for John.
My dad loved John Madden. He loved him. Loved John Madden. John has been very good to our family. And just a storybook guy, and I definitely be watching it, man. I follow Madden, definitely do.
Well, of course, he texted Jim Harbaugh after the Ohio State game, so it's all coming around. Your family, Jim, all that whole thing.
It all does. It all comes full circle, always, man. And I'm so grateful to one, be a part of this Michigan fraternity and this family, but also have my family members be a part of that. My younger brother that played Notre Dame, he's flying back now. He was out with the Raiders this past weekend. So, Madden's been really good to us. The Raiders have been very good to us. And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, we're happy that you were a part of the Maize and Blue Review today. It was great having you on here. Thanks for so much of your time. Enjoy the next couple of weeks, and always great to see you, Jarrett. Continued success and all the best.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. Anytime for you, buddy. Hit me up anytime. I'd love to come on and talk Michigan.
After they win, 2022, we'll call you up. And
call me up. Hey, anytime, man. I'd love to come on and talk about this, man. I love it.
All right, Jarrett. Thanks so much. See you later.
See you.
There he is, Jarrett Irons, the former Michigan linebacker, number 37. In I think it's his Wikipedia page. I was looking through some of the stuff when Jarrett said he was going to come on. And it said, at the time of when he was done with his playing days in 96, that he was the leading tackler at Michigan. I said, I thought Ron Simpkins was the leading tackler. So I'm over there looking through the record book. And of course, before I get to defense, I'm looking at offense, and I'm like, oh yeah, look at John Navarro with these records and everything else. And I'm going through, it's taking me forever. I got down there on the tackles. I'm like, you know what? Wikipedia wasn't right there. Ron Simpkins, Jarrett Irons, the second right now, still the all-time career tackle number 2. Jarrett Irons, number 37, but a 2-time Michigan captain, and it's always great to get his perspective on the game. It's great to get your perspective as well. I got some audio, listened to since Saturday night. Want to talk a little bit about that game as well. Antoine made a pick. I do remember it because I thought, it's kind of he was picking a blowout, and I thought maybe he's flexing on Friday, Antoine, and his prediction was 42-10. I guess you gave Iowa too much credit there, Antoine. Consecutive weeks they score 42, and the young man, the football player from Oxford, was number 42. Now, that wasn't lost on anybody over the weekend. Antoine thinks we should use as words like we used Jabril Peppers in a Wildcat package, or maybe a little option. He used to play quarterback in high school. I didn't know that he played quarterback in high school, but that double pass, I was just thinking myself when I thought that, Michigan was going to win this game. You got to go through the whole thing, but, Corum had the big 67-yard run, but the next play was that double pass. That was on a first down, and to run that play and then to execute that play and have it go for the 75 yards like that, he had that defender in his face, and to be able to throw it and hit Roman Wilson on the money like he did. I mean, just, you love it. You love execution. What do you say? You love it when a plan comes together. You love it when a play like that happens. Yeah, you know what? Donovan Edwards, there's no doubt. I mean, he is an extraordinary weapon. He caught the 10 balls like he did for 170 yards, at 77-yarder against Maryland. And then against Ohio State, he just out there, he made that catch, like, woo, grabbed it out in front of him. Yeah, he's deadly. And he's a fantastic player. Like, there's no doubt about it. And the sky is the limit. I think Harbaugh said after the Maryland game, like, you're just seeing a little bit of Donovan Edwards. And yeah, who knows? Yeah, have him play quarterback. Have him throw the ball. Have him run the ball. Have him catch the ball. He can do it all. He is great. So, yeah, that was great how he played. At halftime, Michigan was up 14-3, and I was looking through it, and Michigan had played a lot of the Maryland game wasn't close at the half, but most of Michigan's other games were extremely low scoring and close at the half. Maybe not the Rutgers game. It was 20-3, and they, ended up winning it in the scoring second half points. Most of the games were close that way, but I saw it feeling pretty good, 14-3. And then coming out in the second half, Maryland gets 16 yards on their first possession there, and they have to punt. And then Michigan comes back, and I thought this was, whether it's the turning point or whether I went from feeling pretty good to feeling really confident, was Michigan goes and takes their first series of the second half, and Cade McNamara wasn't great in the first half throwing the ball. In fact, the interception, the one all could have had it, but it wasn't a perfect pass. There was another throw to Cornelius Johnson that he was so open, and even though Coach O could have caught it, it would have been a great catch. It was also like, he's off a little bit. And, Donovan Edwards had more passing yards than Cade had in the first half. So, I checked in online at the half, and there were people grumbling like, oh my God, make a change at quarterback and everything. But Cade was sharp in the second half, and it started on that first series. Like, he hit Cornelius Johnson for 15 yards, and then he hit Luke Schoonmaker, and Schoonmaker make the great catch, with the one hand, and comes in. That was a big one. What did that one go for 27 yards? Schoonmaker's come on. I know he had the two in the Indiana game. I was just watching him at the podium during this week. He came out there, and he had his sleeve cut off, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, wow, man, that guy's got some tree trunks for arms, and he is a giant. You go out there and you see him as an inviting target, man. He's a monster, and help out in that run game as well. Schoonmaker, who had a fantastic Big Ten title game. So, yeah, it was. I like games like that. I know people want the entertainment value of a one possession game right down to the end, and I don't need that. I like games how they were Saturday. That was about as stress free of a big game that I can ever recall. For Michigan football, certainly there have been a few times like in the Final Four. I think about when Michigan was playing Syracuse and Nick Stauskas, hit all those threes. I mean, that game, and they boat raced them. It was over before it started. I mean, all those things. I don't know about before it started. They were raining threes, and it was a very easy victory there. This was felt pretty much like a coronation as well. Once you get into the second half, and it was 21-3, and then they just kept pouring it on like they did against Ohio State. So, and the other thing is, like, if I was an Iowa fan, there were a couple plays, one in the first half when they got a penalty, so it ended up putting them like 2nd and 23. Well, if it's 2nd and 23, I'm thinking, you got to get about 10 of those yards back to make it at least manageable on 3rd and long. You know what? They ran the ball. They just ran it right up the middle for about 4 or 5 yards. If that was Michigan doing that, if that was Josh Gaddis, I'd have been like, you know what? That's too conservative. You can't just give away. And the whole thing about Iowa, they're like, Iowa, where punting is a good offensive play. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe back in, the 20th century, you could talk about, punting is a good offensive play. Not anymore. And even though this Michigan team is, a throwback, and they're running the ball, and they're old school and all of these things, Michigan running a double pass, that's not 1980, but, running it on 2nd and 23, if you're pinned back to your own 5 or something, and then on 3rd and long, they did the same thing. Let's just get out of here with a punt. No, they weren't in the shadows of their own end zone. But hey, look, I'm not an Iowa fan. I don't know if they're sitting there in Iowa and just like, we just got to be able to recruit like Michigan and develop the players like Michigan, all the things, that people say when it comes down in a game that you lose. Now, on to Georgia. Quick thoughts here about the Dogs. Let me play. I've got 3 things. I've got some audio that I have for this broadcast here. And then also I have the Michigan recruiting spotlight, which had me, checking twice some lists here in the Christmas season and going back and looking at some things recruiting. Plus there was a verbal commitment to get Michigan up to 20 that we'll get to, the memorabilia minute, and where I'm giving away something as well. And I always want to get to the feedback. And I do appreciate Antoine getting in on the feedback here. He says he thought it was true that Ohio State wanted it more, and some of the past Michigan's players, it's almost like a religion to Ohio State and their fans as opposed to Michigan. And he's talking about also, Antoine was talking about Don Brown's scheme. Most of the players understood that Michigan couldn't beat them, leaving the corners on an island to be beat by a simple drag route due to Michigan blitzing all day. Yeah, I mean, there definitely needed to be a scheme change, and there was. And if, you heard it there from Jarrett Irons, what Justin Fields, the former Georgia recruit, had to say. He's down there for Ohio State for a minute. He's like, we want it more than Michigan. That stung the former players. This particular team, it was pretty obvious that they had the desire that they want, that it was in their mind that they were going to beat Ohio State this year. All right, let's hear some of the audio. We had that first call from Gus Johnson. Here is Blake Corum. Speaking of the Michigan offense, here's Blake Corum, who talked about this year's offense.
Coach Gadd and then us believing in him. He committed to the run game early. Well, I think in the interview he said, like, last year he didn't really focus on the run game, but he's been a tremendous play calling. It's been great.
That's Blake Corum talking about the season-long identity of toughness and Michigan running the ball. Yeah. I remember hearing Josh Gaddis in the preseason talk about, we're going to get back to running the ball. And I thought, that's a total old school cliche Michigan coach kind of quote that he's just throwing out there. But, he was right. I got to listen to the coaches. Can't just be like, he's just saying that. He wasn't just saying that. Here's the thing that comes back to that. If you need this to get charged up and, or if you're going to use that for fuel, then, you're at a wrong play. Andrew Vastardis, after the game, Michigan was talking about 2%. And Vastardis, the Michigan captain, the center, the sixth-year guy, he was asked about that 2% with the players yelling it coming off the field.
Beginning of the year, the odds, I don't know, whatever it was 2% likely we'd win the Big Ten championship. That was preseason predictions. I don't know how it works out, but, we believe in each other. We believe in ourselves, but, there's always that little external motivation. So, internally motivated, bring each guy along, but sometimes just some of the stuff that's out there, you just take it and ride with it and fuel the fire. So
there you go. Andrew Vastardis talking about that 2% comment. Hey, heading into the year, where did you have him, Dennis? Well, I picked Ohio State 1, and I picked Penn State 2, and I had Michigan 3. You know what? Initially, when they came up with the first schedule, I had Michigan losing to Indiana, going to Bloomington, but I switched it and had Michigan going 8-4 when they switched the schedule around, and had Michigan going to Michigan State, which I thought was going to be an easier game. And, the point of that is like, these players going to be all upset. How could anybody pick Michigan? Nobody could pick Michigan before this season. Michigan was the first team since the college football playoff started to make the college football playoff, being an unranked team heading into the season. Why would you pick Michigan this year? Here's Will. He was talking about John Madden, best announcer, very funny, honest. We shouldn't berate him for being associated with a video game. Yeah, I don't. Like, what happens is announcers get old, like me. They get older, and then the young guys and things, and you'll hear somebody, and they, and you get older, you make a mistake. Like, young guys make mistakes too, but when you're older and you make a mistake, they chalk it up for you being old. Not just making a mistake. And there was part of that. But Pat Summerall and John Madden, sometimes they hang around a year or two long. I don't know. I kind of like John Madden. It reminds me a little bit of Romo. People are always like, boy, Tony Romo really likes Patrick Mahomes. Well, he's always doing Chiefs games, and Mahomes is the number one quarterback in the league. He might not be ranked out this year, but the last few years, he's pretty much been the number one QB, and Romo's on all those games. So, yeah, Romo's going to have an affinity for the number one team and the number one player. You don't like that. And John Madden loved Brett Favre. And, he's always talking about Brett Favre, and people's like, God, I hope one day I love something as much as John Madden loves Brett Favre. Well, he was right there, and, he did. And, he loved his style of play, too. All right. Oh, more audio. Let's go back to the audio. This is to Michigan quarterback Cade McNamara. Speaking of the offseason, last year was not good with just the 2 wins. People looking at Harbaugh and even big-time Michigan fans, and thought it was time to move on and everything. And so Cade was asked after the game about the play getting it done, the players getting it done and getting it done for their coach.
Last season, it was so tough, and not just for us players, but for Coach Harbaugh as well. And we know that there's not one person who cares about Michigan more than Coach Harbaugh. And this team, we came together, and we want to win for Coach Harbaugh too. And we're just so happy that we were able to, give him that joy, because he deserves it.
There you go. There's from number 12, Cade McNamara. Speaking of his coach, Jim Harbaugh, got a couple pieces of audio from Jim. Yesterday, Harbaugh gets back, so they win Saturday night. They're up late. They get into Ann Arbor. Here's the first thing yesterday in the, I guess you'd call it the Orange Bowl introductory news conference. Here's what Jim Harbaugh had to say. His first comment since finding out that Michigan was going to play the Bulldogs.
Thrilled at the way our team played. We knew we were going to have to play, really good. And our guys did. Coaches put together great plans, and players really executed them. So really thrilled about the way our team has played all season long, especially particularly the last half of the season, last 2 weeks, and last night. It hasn't quite even been 24 hours, but had a glorious night last night. Just awesome to watch our team compete. And we flew back to Ann Arbor today, and stopped by Schembecker Hall, got a meal, and we're able to see that we'd be going to the Orange Bowl to play Georgia, and everybody's super excited.
Well, they should be. Yeah. So Saturday night, that game kicked off at 8:15, 8:17, I think officially, 8:17. And so, yeah, we're not 48 hours away from that Big Ten championship game being kicked off. So it's all pretty fresh, but Jim Harbaugh was asked first thing after his opening comments there, he was asked about the Bulldogs and his first impression of the Dogs.
I've watched them throughout the year. General impressions are rugged. It's a rugged, tough squad. Play extremely well on all sides of the ball and special teams. They're going to be really, really excited to dig into it and study them. But that's the word that came to my mind.
Rugged. I'm going to go ahead and say that Jim Harbaugh will use rugged 25 times at least before they kick off against the Bulldogs on New Year's Eve at 7:30. He's going to be asked, what do you think of Georgia? Rugged. I think they're a rugged team. The thing about Georgia here, yeah, if you're a Michigan fan, were you hoping for Cincinnati? I was. And Cincinnati, they're a pretty good team and everything, haven't lost the game, but they don't have the talent that Georgia does. And their offensive line, if there was a weak point in the Bearcats team, was the offensive line. That happens to be the strength for Michigan. So that's, of course. That's why you wanted to see Georgia beat Alabama. And that's why you wanted to see Michigan get number one, because you wanted to see them get matched up against Cincy. It would have been an easier matchup. They'd be favored. And Cincinnati, it didn't happen. And now, you got to play probably the best team there. It's either, if you got to beat the Dogs, you're going to have to come back over the top and beat the Tide. Can it happen? It can, but you've seen how it went down. It's just exciting to be in the playoff here. I know it. I don't think you can complain. I think you complain a little bit, but I don't think you complain too much. The selection committee, when you have a heavyweight fight and you watch it and you get done and the guys, this is what Ali Frazier, what we saw on Saturday. It was, even though Georgia got up to a 10-0 lead, I mean, you didn't get done with that game saying, oh man, I want to see those two teams play again. Because if that was the case, the selection committee could have easily, like if that game would have gone into overtime or been like the championship game a couple of years where Tunga Vailoa came in the second half and everything, it was one of the great championship games. If you had a game like that in the SEC title game, people were like, man, I can't wait to see that rematch. Guess what? You'd have got a rematch. They'd have figured it out. They'd have put Cincinnati, put Michigan 1, Cincinnati 4, and then it said, hey, you're going to get that rematch because you know what? The people would clamor. There people would have been clamoring for it. They would have gave it to them. And the thing was here, it was close enough they could do whatever they want. And so they didn't want that rematch. So this is the way it goes. And does it hurt Michigan? Probably. But, I don't think this is like the biggest thing to complain about. But, if you want to, I think it's understandable a little bit. Complaining about that matchup. Yeah, Georgia. I mean, their numbers here. I was just looking at them.
Last season, who's so tough.
Hit that. No, that's Cade.
Last season.
All right. The Georgia defense. They only give up. They're the number 1 points allowed team, giving up 10 a game. And that's gone up since they played Alabama. It's at 9.54. That's number 1 in the country. Michigan, by the way, is 4th on that list, giving up 16.8. But it's a pretty remarkable gap between 1 and 2, and certainly between 1 and 4 when you're talking about giving up 9.54 points a game to 16.08 like the Dogs. But of course, the Dogs are coming up off of a game where they got undressed a little bit by Nick Saban and Bryce Young, and is it going to take great quarterback play to be able to beat Georgia? Because Michigan, when you think about Michigan's rushing attack, which is pretty good, number 2 in the country in Power 5 rushing. Michigan is just behind Ole Miss at 223 yards a game, just under 224 yards a game. Ole Miss is number 1. So Michigan with the second best Power 5 rushing attack in the country, going against the Bulldogs. Wisconsin was number 1. Georgia was number 2 in Power 5, and they're number 1 in points per game. It's a hell of a defense. Linebackers are awesome. The D-line's great. So, yeah, Michigan's going to have to make some plays. They're going to have to make some plays in the passing game. But, you get this far, you're going to play a great team. Georgia could be the best left here. So, they're a big underdog. I think they're probably too big of an underdog, but I think they can win the game. And so for me, those are some of the numbers that I was looking at talking about it. Matthew's saying they want the rematch in the championship game. Yeah, you know what, Matthew, you can look at it a lot of different ways. I'm not really arguing about what anybody's going to say about how they matched them up. If you think that's the way they wanted to do it, I think if they really, the one thing that I would argue about, if they really wanted that rematch, they could have had it. So, and you could make that argument that they want the rematch in the championship game. My argument is that's not guaranteed that they would have it there. And you want the best games that you can have on New Year's Eve. And I think that's the way it went down there. Well, it's going to be the most attractive semifinal because you can't be sure that it's going to be a championship game like that. But, like I said, everybody can have their own ideas and own theories. We have seen one thing from the selection committee that, is sometimes they're talking about they value head-to-head, then other times they don't. And so here's the thing to me. The selection committee, wait for it, they pick whoever they want to be in the Final Four, and they could arrange it. And plus, it was close enough. They could arrange it any way they wanted. So you can make that argument. I could make my argument. They can sit over there saying they were playing it straight across the board. It had nothing to do with matchups. This is, I don't like, so you believe what you want to believe. I've seen enough from the selection committee to know that they're picking, to me, games that are going to be the most attractive that people want to see. It's a business, and they want the best matchups. So, and they could do it. And it was close enough where nobody's going to give them any flack. I mean, there's not a whole lot. You go ahead and give them a little bit, something to talk about here certainly today. And we're talking about it right now. So there you go. All right, two things left. And one is the Memorabilia Minute. The other is the Michigan Recruiting Spotlight. And before we get to that, we do want to tell you that if you're listening to the pod here, we're going to have a giveaway coming up for those of you that listen to the pod. I suppose it could be that way when you're watching too. But I'll tell you why it's specifically a pod thing. But if you can go to michigan.rivals.com and you can get a year of the Maize and Blue review. That's where I work. And right now is for a special price of $20.21. You go to michiganrivals.com, you use the promo code RIVALS2021. And if you're a new subscriber, you get that rate. So take advantage of that. You get on the community there, the posting boards, you get everything going on. Right now, everything's hot as a firecracker, as you know. So there's a lot of good things going on there. And you check all that out. Now, the Michigan Recruiting Spotlight is something today I'm going to talk about. Michigan did just get the signing day, the early signing day is coming up on the 15th. And where are we at here today? We are the 6th, so we're that close. A week from this Wednesday is signing day. So we're mowing right down to it. Michigan picked up a commitment over the weekend, a defensive back from California, Zeke Berry. Zeke Berry makes a number 20 for the Wolverines. 20 commits, and they are up to a team ranking of 13 with Rivals. And it was just a week or two ago we were sitting here saying, they'll probably be closer to 20 than they would be to 10, but they've picked up a couple commits. And here they are already up to 13. Who knows where they could end up? Maybe they could end up inside the top 10. Now, one thing, when it comes to Georgia, you like recruiting, you like Georgia. If you look at the team rankings, like Michigan's number 13 right now, you know who's number 1? Correct. Georgia. Georgia's number 1 right now. They've got 6 5-stars committed. Michigan has 1. Michigan has 4 4-stars. Of the Dogs with 12. If you look back at the past 4 years, I guess we could include this year. If you look past the last 5 recruiting classes, Georgia has the number 1 ranked class 4 of the last 5 times. They had a number 1 class in 20, 19, and 18. Number 1 recruiting classes. Look at these 5-stars. They got 6 this year. They in 20 they had 5. In 19, they had 3 stars. In 2018, and a lot of those guys are still on this team. Justin Fields was in that recruiting class. Georgia had 8 5-star recruits. I mean, there's barely 8. I mean, what are there, about 20 some odd 5-stars in a cycle? The Dogs had half of them. So when it comes to recruiting, go ahead. Get crazy if you're a Georgia fan. And if you get stars in your eyes. Somebody emailed me last night, was taking some screenshots of the Michigan 2018 class. And I mentioned Luke Schoolmaker earlier, 3-star, Ronnie Bell, 3-star, Haskins, 3-star. So getting the players is nice. And I like 5 stars as much as anybody, but getting them, developing them into players. Ryan Hayes, I believe, Michigan's left tackle, also a 3-star. I mean, 3 stars in that 2018 class, a part of this class that ended up taking the Michigan to the Big Ten title this year. I like 5 stars. I like being able to get players and having the coaches have an eye for them, whatever they're thinking about them, and then developing them into big-time players. And Michigan has done that. And if you look back to that 2018 class, that was the class that wasn't very highly ranked at all for Jim Harbaugh. And a lot of people were like, this is not any good. It's not acceptable. Yet, be interesting to see what they actually thought of their class at the time. Like they're like, national rankings doesn't have pretty high. We feel pretty good about it. Or were they thinking the same thing? Like, hopefully these guys come through for us. I don't know. You never know about those particular things. All right, it's time for the memorabilia minute. It's going to be a quick one because it's just 60 seconds. It's the memorabilia minute. And it's a little bit of a trivia. I'm going to ask you who this is. The memorabilia minute. He played at Michigan earlier this century. You can see that he wore number 77. The nickname, the Walrus. The Mauler. Named first team All USA by USA Today back then. That used to be the big deal. You were USA Today All American back in the day. That's what you wanted. Was a left tackle for Michigan. I think a 3-year starter. Any guesses? I don't even know if you can read that. Tony Pape is who it is. And you can see that on the back. Tony Pape must have gone to Chicago for the Big Ten coaches meetings at the beginning of the year. I used to go to those every year. And towards the end of them, I would, if I had time, walk into, before they let the fans in, the players would all be sitting there, and I would grab some of these. Not some of them. I would take one from each player, and I would say, I'm going to give it away. I don't know what happened where I didn't end up giving this Tony Pape away, but the chance for you to have this autographed Tony Pape from me, verified. I've had it all these years. Close to 20 years old, this picture. You can have it. You're a Michigan fan, want some memorabilia, it's yours. I do have to say that there's a little tear in the photo right there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're just a Michigan fan. That's all you need to be. Who else would want this? So if you listen to the podcast, you can put in a review for the pod. I've only asked once, to go out there and do it. And I looked, and ME, initials ME, left a review. And I want to thank ME for being the first person to get in there. I asked, and ME, I went in that night like, hey, there's a review from ME. Then I went and read a review from Q Strauss. Excellent review from Q Strauss. I appreciate it. If you go to the Maize and Blue Review podcast and you write a review, whatever you think. Fithian's background's too busy. That's what my wife said. Fithian needs to lose some weight. I don't know. You could say that. It's true. I don't like his shirts. I like his shirts. I like his beard. I like the show. Whatever you do on the review, you rate it and you write one and you say, hey, I want the Pape autograph picture. You'll get it just by writing that review, and write that you want the Pape picture. And if you do that, you can get a hold of me. I'll show you how to get I'll have you get a hold of me through Twitter. My DMs are open. It's very easy that way. And I will mail this out to you. A great collection piece for you Michigan fans. That took over a minute. Sorry about that. Appreciate everybody watching the show here today. You know what? If I talk for one more minute, I can go exactly 1 hour. And I was thinking as I was watching Michigan on Saturday night playing in the Big Ten title game, I was thinking, doing a weekday pod live at 1:00 is a lot of fun. And originally I thought, I'll talk every day 10 minutes. What's going on with Michigan? What I'm thinking? Would I want to listen to myself more than 10 minutes? Probably not. But then it evolved into I said, you know what? I could get enough audio where I could expand that out for 20 minutes. Once in a while, I could go out there and I could get somebody else to talk with. Today, Jarrett Irons, the former Wolverine, who stayed on with us for over 20 minutes. So I'm like, but then you think, an hour-long pod, if you're out there and you want to listen to something while you're driving, maybe the average, 22 minutes? You might be able to get 3 days if it was an hour long. So today's has been an hour long. Coming up tomorrow, Brendan Justice from the Maize and Blue Review. He's the recruiting editor. He'll be on, and we'll go through the whole thing tomorrow at 1:00. I do want to thank Jarrett Irons, the former Wolverine, for coming on here. Thanks for watching this. If you're somebody that watches the YouTube and saying, hey, I want the Pape autograph picture. Well, go to your pod and write the review there. You don't have to say I'm a YouTube watcher and I'm just doing this for the Pape, but you can if you want. That'll do it. Take care, and thanks for watching.